Right, well, news just coming in from the Supreme Court in New Delhi. Sushil Sharma, the man sentenced to death for murdering his wife Naina Sani, has had his death sentence commuted to life by the Supreme Court. This case took place in 1995, the summer of 1995. He murdered his wife, believing her to have had an extramarital affair, disposed of her body in the Tandoor of a restaurant in a hotel in central Delhi. He was sentenced to death. Now the Supreme Court says he will have to spend the rest of his life in jail. Sushil Sharma was sentenced to death on the 19th of February 2007 by the Delhi High Court. My colleague Arunachalam Vaidyanathan now joins me for much more. This case, Vaidya, certainly one that I have been following since 1995. It was one of my first stories as a journalist as well. Sushil Sharma's journey, something that has caught everybody's attention. Everyone thought that he would actually have to face the gallows. What's made the Supreme Court change its decision?
In fact, I also followed this case as a reporter in 1995, covered extensively this case. So the Supreme Court decisions today commuting his death sentence to life. Basically, it says it's not a crime against society. It's a crime due to his relationship with his wife. So that's why they think this is the mitigating circumstances which the Supreme Court has commuted his death sentence to life. And also it said, so he will have to remain in jail in life, but subject to the remission by the government. Since Sushil Sharma has already almost spent 18 years in jail, if he applies to the government for remission, it's up to the government to grant him pardon and he may come out also.
Right, Vaidyanathan, that would of course pose different questions as well for the sentencing. Now, the High Court, when it passed its verdict, said that what he had done, it was not just the murder of his wife, but it became a sort of rarest of the rare case because of the way her body had been cut up into pieces and put into tandoor at the Ashok Yatri Niwas to burn. The depravity of that act is what horrified the entire city.
Exactly, that's true. But in an appeal, of course, Delhi police wanted the death sentence to stay, whereas the petitioner says that there is no direct evidence. The Supreme Court basically saying that this case is completely circumstantial evidence, and also the same fact which I told you, saying it's not a crime against society. This fellow, Sushil Sharma, was involved in Youth Congress, and there was no any criminal background with him. So, looking into all these aspects, and secondly, important point the Supreme Court is pointing out, it's not a crime against society. He had a lot of love with his wife due to some sort of illicit relationship with someone, the personal relation that made him do this. So based on that, Supreme Court says it's not a rarest of rare case, but so that's why they've commuted his death to life. But since he has spent almost 18 years, now he can apply for remission. It's up to the Delhi government to grant him remission or not.
Right. The Supreme Court, of course, saying that he has to stay in jail for the rest of his life. And that's what it means by giving him a life sentence. They haven't put a cap on the number of years. But they are saying that he will appeal to the government. Now, at the time of the incident, Sushil Sharma was also a politician, somebody who thought perhaps his political clout and political career would help him get away with this kind of a crime.
Of course, yes. Because of him, probably he was taken out from Congress. And secondly, the Supreme Court judgment did not go into all these issues. It basically says, saying that this person does not have any criminal background or antecedents. So, and secondly, as I said, it's not a crime against society because he had a greater love with his wife. And this is because due to his personal strained relationship, he committed this crime. And secondly, he almost spent more than 10 years in jail. So with all these circumstances, Supreme Court feels it's not a rarest of rare case. So that's why he will get a lifetime. But the rider here is, so normally life sentence means the prisoner will have to, the convict will have to spend rest of his life in jail, but subject to the remission. So now court has given this option also, saying that the rest of the life he'll have to spend, but subject to the remission by the government. So if he applies to the government, so as per the IPC, after 14 years, convicted person can apply to the government saying that because of his good conduct, he can be released. So it's up to the government whether to release him or not.
Right. What are the chances the government would actually entertain such an appeal from someone like him?
It's up to the governor will have to take a decision based on the cabinet decision. Right now, Delhi's elections are going to be held in November. So probably the new government will have to think and decide whether they can grant remission or not. But before granting remission, they will have to look all these aspects, as you rightly said, this crime, and they will have to examine whether they can grant pardon or not.
And Vaidyanathan, when the court took up this case this morning, can you give us a sense of the presence in the courtroom? What was going on? Were any of Naina Sahni's relatives there as well at this point in time?
In fact, it's quite difficult to say because it's a quite crowded court. There are 3 judgments today in the morning. So this was the second judgment. This judgment was delivered by Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai, who was a part of the 3-judge bench headed by the Chief Justice. She wrote this judgment and delivered it. She almost took 10 minutes to read out the judgment, basically giving how this case happened, how this Rail Yatri Niwas, this body was put into Tandoor and burnt. And after that, he left for Bangalore. He was arrested in Bangalore. All this case history, she read it out. And finally, she said that since there is no criminal antecedents of Sushil Sharma in this case, he was also a politician. And secondly, this murder took place because of the strained relationship with his wife, who he loved most. So that's why court felt, citing earlier judgment, saying that it's not a rarest of rare case. That's why they committed it.
And in terms of perspective on this, when the Supreme Court does commute a death sentence, as you've said that the person who is convicted has the right of appeal to the government for remission depending on how many years they've spent in jail, what kind of precedent is there for this kind of remission to be granted?
Recently, the Supreme Court is not, affirming death sentences granted by the trial court or high court, you might have seen. In fact, the Supreme Court Constitution bench is going to sit and examine whether the death sentences which the president has rejected the mercy, whether it's the right, is there any long delay in this? They are going to examine that issue also. So already the death sentence is given to Veerappan Associates and the Rajiv Gandhi killers, and few others are still pending Supreme Court to state the execution. So that's why if you've seen for the past almost 1 year, the Supreme Court has not confirmed any death sentences. But in terror cases, yes, Supreme Court confirms death sentences in terror cases. But other issues just like murder or probably murdering family and children, they don't go in such a way to confirm the death sentence given by the High Court as well as by the trial court.